The truth is, you don't even need a grant writing degree or English degree to write a grant. All you need to do is know the process and the formula of how to write a grant. And writing grants is a formulaic process. We lay out this entire formula inside the 30-day master grant template inside the Freelance Grant Writer Academy, just to teach anyone from any skills how to write a grant. There are a lot of urban myths around grant writing, right? Writing grants, what are grants, all of the things. We are going to break those down today. But first, my name is Holly Rustick, and I'm the CEO of the Freelance Grant Writer Academy and the Grant Professional Mentorship. We help aspiring and seasoned grant writers replace your full-time income on flexible hours writing grants from home. We also help you, if you already have a business, scale and grow through having a part-time lean team, systems, and a scaling offer. Let's break down these myths. Myth number one, nonprofits do not have money to pay for grant writing services. Busted. Nonprofits actually will pay for your grant writing services. Yes, many nonprofits may say they don't have the funding to hire you, and that might be true. They actually have to get some investment together. But there are plenty out there that will pay for your grant writing services. Inside the Freelance Grant Writer Academy and the Grant Professional Mentorship, our students just in 1 year were able to bring in $4 million collectively into their grant writing businesses. So yes, people are still paying. Every single week, we get tons of wins inside our program saying they've secured contracts. People will pay. That's just proof that there's money out there to pay for grant writing services. Literally millions of dollars from nonprofit organizations just in my programs. Nonprofits actually make up 5.6% of the gross domestic product in America, which is $1.5 trillion into the economy. It's a lot. Nonprofits employ people, rent spaces, contract vendors, on top of providing needed programs in communities and filling gaps that government and private entities don't provide. Therefore, your grant writing services are just like any other service that they need, i.e., hiring someone to create a website, paying an accountant to track fundraising money, contracting an IT technician to fix a printer. All of these things are needed, and your services are just like any other profession. So why is this such a myth that nonprofits don't have money to hire you? Because many nonprofits will ask you to do your grant writing service for free, work pro bono. Their board of directors may have a policy that the executive director always needs to first ask for pro bono or discount with any vendor or contractor. That just might be a part of their culture. Doesn't mean they don't have the money, but they might ask. And some grant writers do offer pro bono services or discounts to nonprofits, while many do not. Usually those that offer free or pro bono services are in some ways affiliated with the board. Think a lawyer on the board that may write the articles of incorporation for the nonprofit to get started for free. Or the treasurer is also doing bookkeeping for a small startup nonprofit. But this is not required. And many nonprofits will find the money to invest in your grant writing skills if grants are a priority for the nonprofit, and that is a part of their way to get money for the year. So yes, nonprofits do have money to hire you. And even if they don't, they should think of it like an investment, like they would try to get money for any other service. All right, let's look at myth number 2. Grant writers can get paid on commission. Myth busted. It's unethical for grant writers to get paid on commission. So what do I mean? A popular myth is that grant writers can get paid on commission, i.e. the grant writer gets paid a percentage of the grant if the grant gets awarded. And the thought process for many nonprofits on paying a grant writer on commission is that, oh my gosh, they don't have to come up with the money up front, and only if it gets awarded, right, do they actually have to pay, and that means you're going to work super hard as a grant writer to get the grant awarded and do your best work, i.e. you only get paid if the grant gets awarded. Part of the awarded grant would pay the grant writer, i.e. no out-of-pocket expenses from the nonprofit. And this might seem like a win-win, well, from the nonprofit side, but it's not, nor is it ethical. Here are 4 reasons why grant writers cannot get paid on commission, and we also have another video exclusively that goes into more detail here. Writing a grant on commission is against best practices and is unethical. Getting paid a percent of the grant award is against the best practices of the grant writing community, such as the Association of Funding Professionals, the Grant Professional Association, and the Grantsmen Center, and here as well at Grant Writing and Funding. In fact, it's against the Code of Ethics for the Grant Professional Association, i.e. the Grant Professionals Association Code of Conduct 19 says members shall not accept or pay a finder's fee, commission, or percentage compensation based on grants and shall take care to discourage organizations from making such payments. So once again, it's just unethical, but why is it unethical? So let's get into point number 2 under this. Writing grants on commission is unallowable. So if you think for federal grants, especially, this is the big no-no. The OMB Super Circular Uniform Guidance state that proposal costs are aligned with the generally accepted accounting principles, and pre-awarded allowable costs are very specific. The Uniform Guidance 2 CFR Part 200 establishes uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards to non-federal entities. And then it goes into more detail with their pre-award cost. Pre-award costs are those incurred to the effective date of the federal award or subaward directly pursuant to the negotiation and anticipation of the federal award where such costs are necessary for efficient and timely performance of the scope of work. So basically it's saying, hey, such costs are allowable only to the extent that they would be allowable incurred after the date of the federal award. You are writing a grant before it gets awarded. So it's literally unallowable to pay a grant writer from a grant for previous work that was done before the grant was awarded. So number 3, why this is unethical and unallowable to write grants on commission. Grant budgets cannot be allocated for pre-award costs, such as commissions. This point is similar to the point I just went over, but in point number 2, we examined mainly why you cannot pay grant writers on commission, like it's unallowable, right, according to accounting and cost principles. But this point number 3 examines the more logistical side of how grant budgets are designed. When you are writing a budget for a grant, you're writing for costs that you're going to be incurring once the grant is awarded. You design a budget for costs to generally create, operate, or expand a nonprofit's program. These budgets are for future projects or expansion of current projects. Once the grant is submitted, it goes through a review process. If the grant is awarded, the organization enters into a grant agreement or a contract with the funding source. The budget for what you requested is then approved from the time and scope of work after the contract was signed. Here's the deal. The grant writing happened before the contract was awarded. The grant writing is also not a future part of the program, and each category in the budget is allocated for something specific. So where are you going to hide grant writing? You can't write something in that was done before the grant was awarded. So for example, you write a budget for a youth sports program that amounts to $250,000. If you were to say, I'm going to pay a grant writer on commission 10% of the grant if it gets awarded, you would have to pay them $25,000 from that $250,000 grant, which means you would have to take $25,000 out of the budget that has no line item, because you have to put line items for every single penny, right? But you cannot create a line item to pay a grant writer because it's unallowable. Back to my point 2. So that's where it gets messy. You just can't put it in the budget, basically. And my 4th point on this myth is writing grants on commission is unethical because a grant is a product. Once a grant has been written, it's an actual product. This product is essentially a business plan that can be used for multiple funding advancements, right? Plus, this takes the grant writer's time, technical writing experience, and grant writing knowledge. Many grant writers invest in grant writing courses, things like the Academy, the mentorship, into grant writing software, and so much more, and they hone their skills over the years. Even if the grant proposal does not get awarded, that proposal is still a product, and you can use it for future grants, for fundraising copy, for website copy, for social media, and so much more. Plus, it just helps the nonprofit get really clear on a project. Myth number 3. Grants are super hard to write, and you need to have a writing background. Myth number 3, busted. Grants are a formulaic process, and anyone can learn. This myth actually serves you well as a freelance grant writer. Why? Because everyone else thinks that grants are so hard to write that they don't even want to look at a grant. They think, oh, I need to outsource that because it's so difficult. The truth is, you don't even need a grant writing degree or English degree to write a grant. All you need to do is know the process and the formula of how to write a grant. And writing grants is a formulaic process. We lay out this entire formula inside the 30-day master grant template inside the Freelance Grant Writer Academy, just to teach anyone from any skills how to write a grant. But the basic thing you need to know is that there is a formula that you can learn. It doesn't mean if you got D's in English class that you cannot write a grant, or that if you are bad at math, you don't know how to write a budget. It is very, very much just a formula. I like to relate this formula to a puzzle. You need to have a problem statement, goals, objectives, work plan, and a budget as your core pieces. You can learn how to write each of these pieces and then connect them together. Every single grant requires these basic pieces, even if they give them a different name. Let's get to myth number 4. You need a grant writing certification to be a grant writer. Myth 4 busted. You don't need a grant writing certification to write grants. You don't need a grant writing certification to be an excellent grant writer or to even get clients. You just need to learn the formulaic process of writing grants and write grants. However, some people may feel like they have to have a certification before they can write grants or get clients, and that's usually due to imposter syndrome. But some folks want a grant writer certification just to further their education or just simply overcome the question that they will get during sales calls from nonprofits who ask, do you have a grant writing certification? They just simply want to be able to say yes. Instead of explaining that we don't actually need them to be excellent grant writers, sometimes they just want to say, yes, I do. Because at the end of the day, the nonprofit client doesn't even know what the difference is between the different certifications out there, or if having a certification even makes you more of an expert. And according to Global Development Solutions pricing survey for grant writers in 2023, it doesn't. Having a grant certification does not impact your earnings. However, there are still a couple of reasons you might want to get a grant writing certification. Externally, what having a grant writing certification will get you is, once again, an easy answer to overcome the question or the objection, do you have a grant writing certification? Yes. Literally, you can put the logo in your email signature, and it creates some credibility. You can put the name of your certification on your resume, website, LinkedIn profile, business card, as I mentioned, even in your email signature. And this lends to external affirmations of your skills. And internally, why you might want to have a grant writing certification is the process of getting a grant writing certification can help you improve your grant writing skills, give you more knowledge, and ultimately give you more confidence in writing grants. This is the heart of it all. And a disclaimer is, grant certification or not, it doesn't really showcase your grant writing abilities. To have long-standing credibility and a reputation and to implement your learned skills, you need to practice writing grants. Yes, a grant writing certification can increase your resume and improve your skills, but actually going through the process of writing grants, getting feedback is an entirely different thing, right? It will actually make this skill real. Inside the Freelance Grant Writer Academy, we have our grant writing course and our 30-day master grant template, where you can actually get grant writing feedback as well. When you write your grant, you submit it for review and get feedback. This can help so much in getting your confidence, and we give you a grant writing certification, and you can also get 31 education credits towards your Grant Professional Certification Institute, so your GPCI, if you're going for that specific certification. But Holly, why would I include a certification and hours toward GPCI if a grant writing certification is not needed? Because a grant writing certification can be helpful in increasing your credibility, knowledge, skills, and confidence. Myth number 5, you will always get your heartstrings pulled and never make money as a grant writer. Myth number 5, busted. You can still be compassionate and charge for your services. Let's debunk the whole heartstrings do-gooder attitude. Now, I'm not saying you aren't a good person if you want to write grants for free. If you have a trust fund, rich partner, or whatnot, go for it. But for most of us out there, we need to make some income to pay the bills as a grant writer. And even if we don't, need it. We might just desire to feel more financially stable or know that nonprofits will respect our time more if we charge. That was like me. I used to give discounts even before a nonprofit would ask for one. And of course, I knew people, they were actually friends of mine who had these nonprofits, so I wanted to be nice and fair to a friend. But what led that to that feeling of nice equaling fairness was so off. I would instead feel bitter after a while because I still needed to pay my bills and now filled up my time taking on a client that was not meeting my business needs. That was not fair at all. Nor was it nice to my daughter, who I spent time away from because I was needed to work more. I had to work more, right? Because I was charging less, and then I had to take on extra clients to pay all the bills. I know I'm not alone. We get stuck, especially us women, with feeling like we are not a good person if we charge for our grant writing services or give discounts. We love the cause of a nonprofit, and if they say they can't pay our services, oh my gosh. I would probably have $1,000 if I had a penny for every time an Academy student on a coaching call said, "It just pulled at my heartstrings, Holly, so I gave a deep discount." Ooh. While you may be passionate about the cause of the nonprofit, and likely are, most nonprofit causes are amazing, you don't give discounts just because you love what they're doing. You can design service offerings that can meet nonprofits that have shoestring budgets without overworking and undercharging. It's nice to be passionate about your work, but it's also nice to feel supported by your work and to have time with your family. Giving discounts doesn't make you a nice person. Ooh, that's spicy. I'm sure you already are a nice person, as you want to help nonprofits with causes that you care about and get them funding. It can be a win-win situation, heartstrings and all. Inside the Academy, we help you understand who you want to write grants for, what their annual operating budgets are, how much they can actually afford, and what services would be the highest ROI for investing with you and fair prices for you to charge. You'll figure this out going through our change statement formula and getting coaching and feedback on it. You can still get your heartstrings pulled, be a nice person, and get paid your full equitable rates. You don't need to overwork or take time away from your family or your health to be nice and fair.